This program is dedicated to the memory of Joe Lapsevich Jr. and Mike Knowles, two members of our series tragically killed returning from the Vancouver event. With the 1992 Western Championship going to Frank Allers, and Kenny Wilden wrapping up the Eastern Championship early in Vancouver. The Western Rookie of the Year awarded to Daisy Lee. There's only one award left to determine who will be the Eastern Rookie of the Year. Will it be Paul Mackey? Perhaps it'll be Craig Brittle. Or maybe Shane Grossman will walk away with top honors. We'll find out today. This is the Players Limited GM Motorsports Series on TSN.
Welcome to Halifax. Hello, everyone. I'm Pierre Houd. Well, the championship is wrapped up now in the 1992 season of the Players Limited GM Motorsports Series. But there is much at stake for this race. And to know more about that, here are Jim Paulson and Pat Gonzalez.
Welcome to Round 9 of TSN's coverage of the Players Limited GM Motorsports Series. This week, from the Moosehead Grand Prix through the streets of Halifax. Although Kenny Wilden has already clinched the Eastern Championship, many of these drivers still looking for those very important championship points, and of course, another big payday here at Halifax.
I think they're looking for a little psychological advantage here as well, Pat, because next weekend it is the shootout. So if they can win or end up with a good finish here, it's going to set them up, I think, psychologically for the big shootout payday right around the corner.
The event here in Halifax is also being run as a tribute to one of this series' most talented and well-respected drivers, Joe Lapsevich Jr., who, along with his crew chief Mike Knowles, tragically were killed in a traffic accident on their way back from the Vancouver event.
These are two young men that we knew well, Pat. They certainly are a couple of gentlemen who exemplified young involvement and commitment to the world of motorsport. They definitely had their seasons in the sun, too, and they will be missed, and this serves as a marvelous tribute to them.
Well, all of the drivers will be carrying in-memory decals on their race cars here at Halifax as a tribute to Joe and Mike. Now let's take a look at the starting grid.
Starting from the last row, a long way from his North Vancouver home, the Western Series regular Ken Leslie starts his number 47 Camaro.
Paul Mackey, one of the first-year drivers, will race Shane Grossman for Rookie of the Year honors.
Shane's brother Sean will start beside Paul and may use his starting spot to help shift the points battle.
Ron Schell, another Eastern regular, qualified well and is hoping to cap off a solid season with a great finish here.
Here's the man at the center of all the activity this weekend, Shane Grossman. He only has to run half the race to be the 92 Eastern Rookie of the Year.
Paul Duckworth, who had a brush with the wall in qualifying, has spent the past few hours frantically repairing his car.
Robert Stein, who joined our series midseason in Cayuga, he's done a good job with his Firebird on this street circuit. He qualified well.
DDA Scranton has repaired his damaged car from our last street circuit event in Vancouver.
Back with a Sobe sponsorship is Chris Davies, who always puts on a show here in Halifax.
Jeff Lapsevich will drive his brother's car in memory of Joe and Mike. We expect he will drive an inspired race this weekend.
Rob Fellows, who wrapped up his championship here in 91, returns hoping for his first victory in 92.
Peter Cohen, who loves these street circuits, put together a great run in qualifying and is our Sunoco fastest qualifier.
Normand Boyer surprised a few people by putting in the second fastest time on this tight street circuit. He loves these left turns.
Terry Betts has been in the middle of some of this season's best battles. He looks for his first series win.
Richard Spenard dominating this event last year. It's a difficult, tight circuit. He's ready this time.
On the outside of the first row, our 1992 Eastern champion, Kenny Wilden, who's had an outstanding season.
Starting in the pole, our sixth fastest qualifier, John Catman Jr., second in points, looking for victory number 1 this year. Will he get it in Halifax?
While the cars are beginning to pull off the starting grid, we expect to see a lot of contact and a lot of close racing on this demanding street circuit.
And everyone away neatly. A few subtle changes that you'll be detailing shortly, Pat, of course, as far as this track is concerned this year. But at least for the warm-up round, we're getting through it safely. The Players Limited GM Motorsports Series is brought to you by GM Motorsports and Players Limited. Welcome back to our Eastern Final, and for the first time in the history of the series, a solemn start, Pat.
Well, Jim, they have left the pole position open on the starting grid in memory of Joe Lapsevich Jr. and Mike Knowles, the two fine young men who were killed on their way here from the Vancouver event.
The Players Limited GM Motorsports Series.
Field sits in order, of course, anticipating this start, and just for a moment of silence, and then while we're doing that, the Eastern Point lineup at this stage, Pat. Kenny Wilden, of course, has got the championship with 698 points, and then John Cadman Jr. and Rob Fellows, Terry Betts are really fighting for second place when we get this event underway today.
Well, very close there in that battle for second place overall in the Eastern Point standings as we see the cars going through turn one. And now let's take a look at this 1.85 kilometer circuit here at Halifax. Into turn one, it's downhill into turn one. Hard braking, the driver will go through there in second gear, then it's up to third here as they accelerate all the way through turn number two, and uphill now as they move on to Cogswell Street. Driver hitting about 120 kilometers an hour before touching the brakes, going through the chicane here in third gear, and now again accelerating down Cogswell Street in third gear up to fourth, and then downshifting, hard braking all the way down to second gear to go through turn three. Then the little short chute here across the Commons Park and back up onto Bell Road. This is a brand new section coming up next on Trollope Street. New pavement here for this particular section of the racetrack. This is one of the new additions that's been put into the circuit that did not exist in the first year of the event's run here through the streets of Halifax. Out of turn six, and again back onto the start-finish straightaway in these Players Limited GM Motorsports Series Camaros and Firebirds. It'll be about 1 minute and 4 seconds on the clock.
Field completing the 2 formation laps in memory of Joe and Michael, and of course they're also scrubbing a little bit of heat into the tires. They'll require that heat once we get to the start of this as they come through Bell Road onto Trollope, and this is looks like tight confines out here, Pat.
Well, this racetrack is very, very tough. It'll really test the reliability of these race cars. Very tough on the driver. Of course, it is bumpy, slippery in sections. And again, this will be a true test of these driver skills as they come through turn number 6 and head up towards the start-finish line, looking to get the green flag to get this event underway. And the green flag flies in Halifax. We're racing in our final Players Limited GM Motorsports Series Eastern event into turn 1. It is John Cadman Jr. who grabs the early lead. There you see the drivers just trying to pick their way through turns 1 and 2 as now they head up onto Cogswell Street. This is a bit of an uphill run. There you can see Halifax Harbor in the background. Really a very picturesque racetrack built around the historic Citadel as they run through the chicane quickly here in single file through the chicane as again they head down Cogswell Street and really hit about 160 kilometers along the faster section of the racetrack. Hard braking through turn 3. It is Cadman leading Spenard up into second. There's 50. Norman Boye, just about sideways. Spenard gathers it back up, but again, we saw that on this racetrack, Spenard having to call on all of his experience to keep that car off of the wall, Jim.
I tell you, Kenny Wilden was caught. He was hung out to dry on that start. There's no question. The Motomaster team have screamed to the front. There's no question they can also use teamwork on this narrow facility. John Cadman Jr. leading at this point. Spenard, as you point out, Pat, just getting a little astray. But look at Norman Boye perform, sitting in third place.
While we take a look at the second place driver here, Richard Spenard, parked right behind our race leader and his teammate John Cadman Jr. There you can see Spenard using every inch of this racetrack to try to get around his teammate, but for the moment he'll stay tucked in as the 71 and 42 black and red Motomaster Camaros continue to run 1-2. Boye having a great run in that white Camaro. There is 17, Kenny Wilden, back in the 4th place position. out of turn 3. Richard Spenard all over John Cadman for the lead. Kenny Wilden still holding on to 4th. Rob Fellows is 5th, and here comes Peter Cohen on the inside of Rob Fellows. A classic outbreaking move there by Peter Cohen as he has moved up into that 5th place position. So Cohen is the driver on the march. Cadman still your leader. Spenard, Boyd at a bit of a gap to 17. Wilden. There is Peter Cohen, your new 5th place driver.
Actually, Terry Betts almost followed through in that braking procedure as well, and Terry might be the one to check with as far as the driver's line in Halifax.
I think a well-balanced car here is very important. It's a bumpy track, lots of tight corners. It's very important to have a balanced car.
Well, Terry's got the balance there. Rob lost the balance for just a moment, but now that he's got things kind of back in order, and I tell you, they're not concerned about balance. The Motormaster crew out front here, although you almost get the feeling Richard wants to get by Cadman. He feels that maybe Cadman is holding up a bit, and Boyer makes a move on the outside.
Down Cogswell Street, here comes Norman Boyer right in between the two Motormaster cars. Boyer takes the lead, Spenard up in a second, and 71 Cadman running wide will drop to 3rd. Kenny Wilden in that red Pringle Slick 50 Camaro runs 4th. Peter Cohen in 5th, and now he is being pressured by the two Sunoco Ultra 94 cars of Rob Fellows and Terry Betts. Let's take a look at this move by Boyer from Richard Spenard's car. There you see Boyer getting a little bit sideways, but he takes the lead. Spenard through in a second, and Cadman gets shuffled from the top spot all the way back into 3rd. There is your new race leader, Norman Boyer, in that white number 50 Camaro, and what a brilliant move he made at the end of Cogswell Street to take the lead as they go through turn 1.
Well, I tell you, Norman Boyer loves this new chicane they have built into the track in Halifax. Fabulous pass, wasted no opportunities. We have never in this entire series seen Norman look quite this aggressive. Now that he's in front, though, can he hang on to it, or is that little bit of inexperience going to crop up here, I wonder, Pat? I don't know. Spenard is holding in tight.
While Boyer appears to really get through the chicane very quickly, Spenard will close up under braking as they go through turn 3. There you see the rest of that lead group, Chris Davies, then it is Jeff Lapsovich, followed by Didier Scran and the rest of the field. But Boyer leading, Spenard in 2nd. Here's Cadman 3rd, and now Cadman coming under pressure from Kenny Wilden in that red number 17 Camaro, and right behind Wilden, Peter Cohen, who continues to turn in a tremendous drive. In fact, as we look here now, both Boyer and Spenard starting to establish a bit of a lead over the rest of the field as they head across the start-finish line back into turn 1. Spenard late braking into that first turn. He will retake the lead from Norman Boyer. And Richard Spenard showing his experience on the street circuits as he has moved out in front. Boyer runs in the 2nd place position.
Now there's the old Richard Spenard one more time. What a great move he made. And now we're looking at Cadman. I think there's something wrong with John's setup. We got Kenny Wilden getting by. John would appear to, in fact, to be holding up the crew behind him. I think Cohen will be the next to make a move on Cadman and more than likely be successful here, Pat. Now that Wilden's by, he gets a chance now to take off after the leaders.
Oh, tap there in the back of Peter Cohen's car by Rob Fellows. Loops it around in the middle of the racetrack. Betts, Davies, and Lapsovich and Scranton doing a nice job of getting around Peter Cohen's race car.
In car with Cohen. Let's have a look at this one more time. There's the bunt, and Cohen gets sideways. Again, amazing how the rest of the competitors all get around. There's no other incident involved here. Cohen with the bunt from Rob. I think Rob's brakes just overheating. Just dived in a little deeper into that corner than he had really intended, I think, Pat.
We look at the race leader, Richard Spenard, back onto the start-finish straightaway. It's an uphill run to the start-finish line, then downhill into turn 1. Spenard continues to lead after muscling the lead away from Norman Boyer in that very turn there a couple of laps ago. And right now, Spenard really starting to establish a pretty good lead as he moves onto Cogswell Street. Number 50, Norman Boyer, continues to run in that 2nd place position. And after some tremendous action early, things starting to settle in a little bit. Kenny Wilden in 3rd, John Cadman 4th, there's Rob Fellows 5th, Terry Betts in 6th, Jeff Lapsovich 7th, Chris Davies in the green car is 8th, Ninth is the 94 of Didier Scranton. And now in 10th is Peter Cohen.
Well, field spreading out a little bit, Pat, but still anything could happen. You consider how tight some of these corners are in Halifax, and of course they're racing through Citadel Hill Park and around the Citadel, and the place is jammed today. Every spectator, I think, who has a marginal interest in motorsport in the Maritimes and from across Canada have joined us. A great crowd here, Pat, and they're watching a great show.
Kenny Wilden starting to reel in the 50 car of Norman Boyer. There we look at the 1992 Players Limited GM Motorsports Series Eastern champion, and Wilden, who has been so dominant this year, finding the going a little tougher on this challenging street circuit. There you see about 12, maybe 13 car lengths separating Norman Boyer in that white number 50 Camaro and Kenny Wilden, but it's the old veteran Richard Spenard who continues to lead here in Halifax. Boyer in second, Wilden third, John Cadman, our early leader, running in fourth, and then the two yellow and blue Sunoco Ultra 94 cars of Rob Fellows, who runs fifth. His teammate Terry Betts still back in that sixth place position.
We got to point out again, Pat, this is the final event of the year in the Eastern Championship, and a number of these competitors, including our reigning champion and Spenard, who's out in front, have not had a win yet this year. They are truly hungry at this event. Is Kenny Wilden as hungry as some of the rest, I wonder?
Well, I think some of the motivation certainly not here at this final event with Kenny wrapping up the championship. He, of course, would still like to put in a good finish as we look at Rob Fellows and Terry Betts work their way back up onto the start-finish straightaway. But I think the surprise in this race so far definitely has to be Norman Boyer, who, as you said, made that brilliant move at the end of Cogswell Street a few laps ago, took the lead, lost it to Spenard going into turn one, and I think Boyer is obviously enjoying his run here on this very difficult street race.
Richard Spenard's experience certainly showing up on this true street circuit that you referred to, Pat. Like Trois-Rivières, these guys are dangerously close to these walls. Let's go in car with Spenard and just see how smooth the veteran is here. He certainly knows how to deal with this course, I think.
We look at Richard Spenard as he heads down Bell Road, downshifting through turn 5 now and onto this new stretch of pavement on Trollope Street. And now he'll just touch the brakes lightly and set it up for the run through turn 6 here. Very important there. You see the car just getting a little bit upset there as it goes over the bump. And the driver's got to be very, very precise there in terms of getting on the throttle. If you get on it too hard as you go over that bump, the back end can walk out on you. Spenard through turn 1, downhill now as they go through turn 2. And again, accelerating uphill on the first part of Cogswell Street. And then coming up to this very difficult chicane. This is where, as we said, as we look at Norman Boyer coming through, then Kenny Wilden, then John Cadman, and then the cars of Rob Fellows and Terry Betts. That is one of the real difficult sections on this racetrack, getting through that chicane quickly and carrying that speed down Cogswell Street. But Spenard continues to stretch out his lead, and right now in command of this final round of the Players Limited GM Motorsports Series Eastern Division.
Again, Norman Boyer, look at this. He comes through, gains about a car length one more time. He knows that Kenny Wilden is on his tail, and this has got to be Norman's moment if he can possibly hang in here. Again, that one little dip that we seem to have on the street course here at Halifax looked more like a pothole almost, Pat. They really do seem to sink into it, but I'll tell you, overall, it is close here. And now, look at Rob begin to make his move, and John Cadman Jr. 5 laps down. Richard Spenard, the race leader. We'll be right back. Welcome back. It's round 9 of the Eastern coverage of our Players Limited GM Motorsports Series. The finale in the East from the streets of Halifax. And look at this fight for 4th overall.
Superb battle between John Cadman and that black Motormaster Camaro. And here comes Rob Fellows on the inside through turn 3. Fellows grabs the 4th place position. A beautiful job of outbraking Cadman at the end of the straightaway. But I believe Cadman appears to be having some problems with the brakes on his car. He led this race early, but with those brake problems, he continues to fall further back as Rob Fellows now takes over 4th, Cadman in 5th, and now John Cadman will come under pressure from Rob Fellows' teammate Terry Betts as they head back up across the start-finish line to complete another lap, but Fellows pulling away from Cadman, and Cadman will feel the pressure here from Terry Betts.
I think it's evident here that Cadman is having a little bit of a handling problem. I don't know if it's left over from when he went into the wall out in Vancouver or not, but Terry Betts almost able to hang on to his teammate, Rob Fellows, and making that pass now. We see that Cadman pulls away a little bit from Terry, and Terry drops off the tempo. No, not now, though. Catches him up in the corners and through the chicane, which is where Cadman seems to be having his trouble.
While we still ride with John Cadman as we look back to the 6th place driver, Terry Betts, and there you see Betts right up on the rear bumper of Cadman as they went through turn 3 at the end of Cogswell Street. And now we go back to the leader, Richard Spenard, who's having no trouble at all out there. Spenard back on the start-finish straightaway. He has really had a brilliant run. Richard Spenard with the commanding lead. Norman Boyer also turning in a fine drive as he runs in the 2nd place position, but a long way back from Spenard at this point. Kenny Wilden still holding on to the 3rd place spot, and of course a little bit earlier we saw that tremendous action for 4th involving number 71 John Cadman, Rob Fellows, and Terry Betts. Richard Spenard working his way up onto one of the slower cars. That's Ken Leslie, who will be lapped shortly. Kenny Wilden in that red Camaro running all by himself in 3rd. As they go through turn 3, there you can see the difference between the leader Spenard and Norman Boyer, and then about an equal distance back to the car of Kenny Wilden. But now Leslie moves out of the way, and both Spenard and Norman Boyer go through, and Boyer has closed back up. So Boyer doing the better job there of getting around Ken Leslie, and he definitely made up some ground there in traffic, so he's reeled back in Richard Spenard.
No question on this tight street circuit of game path. The traffic may very much be a factor here. Spenard wasted no time at all getting by. Boyer did it even quicker in the case of Ken Leslie. The rest of the field still have to try to pull off that maneuver. It's when they run into even more traffic that the complexion of this event could well change, Pat. We'll see what happens.
Richard Spenard by about 15 car lengths. Norman Boyer running in 2nd. There's Kenny Wilden 3rd. Then we have the lap car. That's that white Camaro of Ken Leslie. Then Rob Fellows, your new 4th place driver. John Cadman still holding out of the 5th place spot. And Terry Betts is 6th. And now Betts looking for that 5th place position is all over Cadman as they head down Cogswell Street, the fastest section of the racetrack. Hard braking now through turn 3. And Cadman managing to hold off Betts, who's to within just about a car length as they work their way along Bell Road.
Okay, let's look back from John Cadman's car. Again, I would have to say through the chicane area on the course here, it is Terry Betts who's doing a little bit better job than John Cadman. It might be that section of the track where we'll see Terry make his next major move. He has a look again to the outside. They come over the bump okay. Now he looks to the inside, and when will Terry make his move? I think it's about to happen.
On the brakes, going into turn 1. There goes Betts, closing right up on Cadman. Betts getting a little bit sideways. Cadman definitely having some problems with the brakes. He's able to accelerate off the turns pretty well, but under braking, that is where Terry Betts is making up all of his ground. They run along Cogswell, headed for the chicane, and again, Betts right up. Oh, no. Betts apparently may have tapped and then hits the tire wall. He'll continue.
Maybe the outside view on this will be a little bit better. Again, they're dealing with Ken Leslie, the two of them coming by. It's a traffic situation, and no, Terry does not deal with the chicane nicely this time. In fact, he almost takes it out, Pat.
I think he got in there just a little bit too hot, hits the tire walls, but does a nice job of keeping the car off of the outside concrete retaining wall, and he will continue down the racetrack, although he's got a lot of catching up to do to get back close to the 71 car of Cadman. There you saw the Cohen car going through, then Lapsevich, and then Chris Davies. So all of those drivers continue to run in the top 10.
Today on Infotech, we look at the pass. A series based on equal cars and difficult tracks places focus on the driver's ability in executing a safe pass, a crucial skill in winning.
Passing technique and that all changes from track to track. At a track like Halifax, what you want to do is be patient. You want to try and hope the guy's going to make a mistake that you can take advantage of very quickly.
Well, passing sometimes involves contact and certainly skill.
I wouldn't think there's a whole lot of difference on the street course and on the road course. Most of the passes take place under braking. You try and get a better exit out of the previous corner, and then you brake a little deeper into the next corner. Usually that's how you set up most of your guys for passing.
Now this series features fierce competition, and in such a competitive series, often getting by another driver takes some very risky maneuvers.
Well, passing in the GM series is very difficult, mainly because the cars are so equal. What you really have to do when you're making a pass is either A, do something better than the driver ahead of you, or B, try and induce a mistake out of the driver ahead of you. And that, you see a lot of the cars will run real close, nose to tail, and the driver behind will stick his nose in here or stick his nose in there, just to let the driver ahead know what's going on. And when you're the car ahead, and there's a car diving around looking for space behind you, it's very distracting, and you can't help but look up in your mirror. And if you're looking in your mirror, you're not looking out the front of the car, which is what you need to do. And sooner or later, you're going to be forced to make a mistake, and that's usually how you get past.
The pass certainly being employed on this street circuit in Halifax, and I would think very gently and with a little bit of thought when you're going to make that pass here today, Ben.
Well, we've certainly had our share of passes already in this event as we look at the race leader, Richard Spenard, now just a few car lengths ahead of Norman Boye as they run through the chicane and out onto Coxwell Street, the fastest section on this street circuit. Spenard still leading, but Boye has reeled him back in the last 4 or 5 laps. There you can see the difference between these two drivers. Norman Boye, definitely his best effort of the 1992 season, running in second here at the moment. He did lead early for a while until Spenard got around going into turn 1, but Boye has kept it close and has now mounted another challenge to Richard Spenard, trying to take back the lead.
I tell you, Norman Boye is no slouch. Remember, again, he was a runner-up to our Rookie of the Year honors last year and is a champion from other race series in this country, so he definitely has a point to make before the series ends this year, Pat. He wants a win, and he is not letting Spenard get away.
Out of turn number 2, Spenard stretching it out just a little bit as they run uphill and on Coxwell Street, heading for the chicane. Paul Mackey is the driver just ahead of our race leader, Richard Spenard, as they clear that chicane and once again head down Coxwell Street. Spenard by about 8 or 9 car lengths. Hard braking here by Norman Boye will bring him to within just about 6 or 7. And Spenard's next mission here will be to try to get around the 77 car here of Paul Mackey, the Mackey moving Camaro. And Norman Boye continues to take advantage of that. Spenard moves to the inside, and here comes Boye as well. Mackey pulling off of the racing line. Spenard goes through, and oh, Boye just does as they go through turn 6 and back onto the start-finish straightaway. So both Spenard and Norman Boye quickly around Paul Mackey. Spenard continues to lead.
I'd say in the case of Paul Mackey, Paul certainly acted very gentlemanly as far as that catch-up was concerned. The fact is, they're going to have much more traffic to deal with here in just a moment. And the fact is, too, with that traffic, it is not affecting Norman Boye's chase of our race leader, Richard Spenard. Boye is still right in there. Will the leader make an error? Or how nervous is our second place man? Going to be some interesting elements here toward the end of this race, man.
Well, Norman Boye appears to be having a whole lot of fun out here on the racetrack. He's certainly maintaining a very smooth driving style as he works his way around the car of Paul Duckworth. So Duckworth also going a lap down to this front-running pair of Richard Spenard in that black Motormaster Camaro and the second-place driver, Norman Boye, out of Saint-Therese, Quebec, aboard the number 50 white Camaro. They're back on the start-finish straightaway. There you can see it's about 15, maybe 16 car lengths between these two drivers. Downhill, hard braking through turn 1.
Well, there's the man. Finally this year, Richard Spenard, our mid-race leader. He wins the Goodyear Eagles, and he can use them come shootout time, I'm sure, Pat.
Well, at the halfway point, we take a look at the current running order of our entire fielders. Ken Leslie currently being shown in the 16th place spot. Paul Duckworth, the 14th place runner at the moment, as we look through the rest of the field. But up front, it continues to be this man, Richard Spenard, who leads 50. Norman Boye holding on to that second place position, and Boye has really stretched it out on Kenny Wilden. About 5 or 6 laps ago, Wilden was within striking distance of Norman Boye, but Boye has pulled well ahead of Wilden, who you just saw moving on to Trollope Street as the first and second place cars of Richard Spenard and Norman Boye were moving back onto the start-finish straightaway. Richard Spenard through turn 1, at very difficult first corner here on this circuit. It is actually off camber, falls away, and you really have to have your full concentration because you can end up into that outside wall very, very easily. Spenard, your leader. Norman Boye running in second, and at the moment, this is strictly a 2-driver race.
In fact, at the moment, Pat, you'd swear these are the only 2 that are on the track. They don't even have traffic to deal with at this stage, so they can really concentrate on each other. Now, I'm sure that Spenard is not worrying too much about his rear-view mirrors. He certainly gets them up tight on the wall, by the way, when he comes out of some of these corners. Boye is the man who has really got to continue the focus and continue. Actually, he seems to gain more again through the chicane. Spenard is getting him, though, in other areas of the track here, Pat.
But I'm impressed with Normand. He's being very, very patient, just trying to find that 1/10 of a second here, 1/10 of a second there. And as you can see here now, is probably chopped about 5 or 6 car lengths off of the lead that Spenard enjoyed a lap ago. Again, hard braking downhill. This is a second gear turn 1. There you can see Spenard doing a nicer job there on the exit out of turn 1. He was to within about 6 inches of that outside wall. Boye allowing a couple of feet, so Spenard using more of the racetrack. A little bit further back, we look at this tremendous race going on for 5th. 71, John Cadman, our early leader, currently holds that 5th place position, but he continues to struggle with this car as he comes into the chicane. Cadman has really been fighting the car under braking. They're about to lap Paul Mackey just ahead in that blue 77 car, but for the moment, Cadman holds onto the 5th place position. In 6th is Terry Betts, and then Peter Cohen. All 3 of those drivers getting around Paul Mackey, who showed a lot of driving courtesy there to allow this fight for 5th place to continue. But it is Cadman holding on to that 5th spot. Then it is Betts, followed by Peter Cohen. Now Cohen ran up as high as 5th earlier until he was hit by Rob Fellows. He dropped well back, but has done a nice job of catching back up, and now right in the thick of this great 3-way fight that's going on for the 5th place position. They're on the start-finish straightaway. Hard braking now into turn 1. There goes Betts on the inside of Cadman, and he will take over the 5th place position. Cohen also trying to get around John Cadman. Cohen looks on the inside, and yes, he will come through into the 6th place spot. So not a good run here for John Cadman. He led this race early, but definitely struggling with the car right now.
And Peter Cohen doing a marvelous job fighting back in this event at Halifax. And in fact, today we profile Peter Cohen. For this resident of Montreal, racing has been a lifelong passion. His interest began really as a child.
When I was a young boy, there was a guy across the street by the name of Peter Lemieux, who had a race car, and every moment after school or on my summer vacation, I was in that garage, you know, either looking at that race car, or he had me cleaning parts or doing something, and if I was lucky enough, he'd take me to the track occasionally, and that's where I got the bug.
Peter found the Players Limited GM Motorsports Series the perfect place to show his love of racing and his love of Camaros.
Well, when I was younger, I always had a Camaro. My brother, even as a matter of fact, had his old drag racing Camaro for 17 years, and he just sold it a couple of months ago, as a matter of fact. And myself and my brother, we always had a Camaro. I guess our nicknames around the neighborhood were the Camaro Brothers. And in 1986, I could taste this series. I was there. I wanted so bad to drive these cars. I could taste it.
This season's win at Trois Rivières was a big turning point for Peter. While known as a rain racer, Peter proved he's now a threat to win any one of these events.
I had a lot of experience in the courier business. I was a subcontractor, and I had a lot of driving miles, so I really knew how to drive in the elements. My first really big chance, I think it was at Shannonville when we had a big downpour, and I qualified 21st in the dry. I had no time in the car, I had no testing. It was my second or third race in the car, and then we had this big downpour, and I just went out and drove the car as fast and as hard as I could, and I won the race. I passed 21 cars. And I think there was the point where I learned that, hey, you know, I have all this driving in the elements experience that I can apply it to driving a race car. I didn't realize it myself. And then it came to a point where that winter we bought an ice racing car, and as a matter of fact, it was an American car, an Oldsmobile Calais with a quad 4. And basically, when we showed up at the track at the first race, everybody sort of laughed at us and said, "What are you going to do with that big American car?" And we went out and we won 2 championships in the pin stud and the full stud categories. So right there, I knew that I was a wet driver or a rain driver or, you know, whatever.
Well, Peter's a perfect example of a young, talented driver, one who's totally focused on racing and on winning.
I don't think there's anything else in life for me but racing. That's what I do best, and that's what I'm going to do. And if I have to stay up all night and work on the car myself, I think that's where I'm at an advantage or a disadvantage, that I know how to do bodywork, I know how to paint, and I know how to do mechanics, and I know how to tear down the car and put it back together myself. So if the time comes where, you know, some of my crew, which I've said these guys have stood by me, you know, through thick and thin, but it's come to a point where, you know, sometimes they do have to go make a living and they do have to pay the rent, where I have to stay alone and do it. I will do it. I will, you know, drive to the ends of the earth, which I have been doing, you know, hook or crook or whatever it takes. I will be at the racetrack and I will be competing, whether I have, you know, $100 or $100,000 budget.
Peter Cohen, the focus on this week's profile.
And we look at Peter Cohen, currently running in the 6th place position, just ahead of John Cadman Jr., who runs back in 7th. The leader, Richard Spenard, still being pursued by the white number 50 Camaro of Norman Boye. This has been pretty much the race for about the last 10 or 12 laps. There you see part of the great crowd that has lined the Citadel Hill here, watching a tremendous race. Spenard, your leader, about 15, 16 car lengths. So just as quickly as Boye is able to close it up to maybe 10 or 12 car lengths, Spenard seems to be able to find just that little extra speed and opens that lead back out through the chicane on Cogswell Street. Richard Spenard leading a Norman Boye in this final event.
20 laps are complete. They got a lot of traffic ahead of them. Richard Spenard in front. We'll be back. Welcome back to the Eastern Final of the Players Limited GM Motorsports Series on TSN. We're racing through the streets of Halifax, and racing the best at this point is Richard Spenard.
While Spenard still about 15 car lengths ahead of Norman Boye, these two drivers have been pretty much going at it for the lead over the last 15 laps, and Spenard and Boye very shortly will be lapping Shane Grossman and Robert Stein. Now, Grossman has, I believe, now wrapped up the Rookie of the Year honors by getting to the halfway point in this one, securing enough points to take the Rookie of the Year. So our congratulations to Shane Grossman as we look at this battle for third. Kenny Wilden holding on to third, but Rob Fellows right behind him, just a few car lengths separating these two drivers. Of course, Kenny Wilden coming into this event at Halifax, having already wrapped up the Players Limited GM Motorsports Series Eastern Championship, so perhaps not the same motivation that Kenny has taken to the starting line in all of our previous events, but right now running in third, looking for that last podium position, but he is being pressured by Rob Fellows, under braking, Fellows to within about 3 or 4 car lengths as we ride along with Kenny Wilden in the thick of this great battle going on for third.
Key here might be that finally Rob has got those brakes bedded in properly. He was having some problems with that right off the top, but now I would say the car has come to Rob, and now he is truly a threat on Kenny Wilden. He'll have another go as they come in through this corner, but Kenny still managing to hold him off very professionally here as the fight for third continues.
The Sony in-car handycams giving us these great pictures and putting us right in the middle of this battle between these two drivers.
In fact, today on Chronos, we examined the role of the Sony in-car camera. One of the most interesting and unique views of racing comes from inside the cockpit. This is the driver's view.
The Sony Handycam is very beneficial for a young driver such as myself. Whereas if you're going to a new track that you've never been to before, or you just want to pick up some tips on a track you've been to many, many times, it always offers a little bit of extra insight, looking at the tape, seeing where you perhaps maybe made some mistakes last time, where other drivers are picking up or losing time to you. Really helpful because you can tell where you're fast and where you're slow, so it's a great training tool.
And as well as a learning tool, the Handycam is a great way to see and feel just how competitive this series is. The hardware itself is the same Sony Handycam you can buy. It's placed on a special mount that is suspended from the roll bar. All the action is recorded on 8mm Sony videotape. Now, once the Handycams are loaded, they're mounted in the cockpit behind the drivers to capture all the action. When installation is complete, the picture is adjusted and focused, ready to record all the action.
Using the in-car camera, I can see it being a very big advantage. Myself, I haven't used them a whole lot in the past. I really don't know why. I guess maybe it's just the fact that I don't have one. I've never gone out and set the car up with one. I've had a lot of in-car cameras in the cars from TV, and a few other people have put their own cameras in my car, and that doesn't bother me. I don't ever feel that they're there. I certainly like to watch them afterwards. I seem to learn a lot from it. But to give you an answer why I've never run one all the time, I really don't know. I think they're probably one of the biggest assets you can have in your car.
Well, of course, while the Sony equipment is useful to drivers, our greatest use is to provide great pictures like this.
We look at the battle for third place involving our 92 Eastern champion, Kenny Wilden, and number 1, Rob Fellows, just ahead of him a couple of lap cars in Robert Stein in the Firebird and Shane Grossman in the Camaro. Here's your race leader, Richard Spenard, through turn 1. Spenard continues to run just a few car lengths ahead of Norman Boye, and Boye just has not let Spenard get away. He's run about 15, maybe 16 car lengths, but that is as much of a lead that Richard Spenard has been able to open up. They head through the chicane. This is one section on the racetrack where Boye has been very, very quick. He carries that speed out onto Coxwell Street. And again, this is the point in the race where driver fatigue may become a factor. Concentration levels may start to wane just a little bit. And of course, on this very demanding and difficult street circuit, Richard Spenard followed by Norman Boye. Of course, this very difficult track as well, really testing the durability, brakes and transmission of the stock Camaros and Firebirds. There is Norman Boye. What a brilliant run he has had here in Halifax. Spenard continues to lead, but Boye sitting right there in that second place position as again they roll through turn 1, and now Richard Spenard closing on Ken Leslie. He is about to lap that white 47 car, now 4. the second time in this event. And Leslie, as he did previously, just moves out of the way. Spenard goes through. Here comes Boyer. And again, Leslie will stay off of the racing line, and Boyer goes through quickly on the inside. That is Sean Grossman, who moves out of the way. Richard Spenard still your leader.
30 of 35 laps are complete. Richard Spenard with Norman Boyer right on him. We'll be back. We're back in the fading moments of the Players Limited GM Motorsports Series finale in the East End. It's from the Moosehead Grand Prix. Look at the fights going on through the back, Matt.
This is the race for 8th in that yellow Mr. Lube Tim Hortons car. That is Jeff Lapsovich just ahead of the green 99 Sobeys Camaro of Chris Davies. Those two drivers battling across the start-finish line as now they head downhill into turn number 1. Davies takes a look on the inside of Lapsovich. Cannot get around. Oh, Lapsovich taps the wall. Davies pulls up alongside, and he will take over the 8th place spot.
I tell you, Chris has brought the crowd to their feet. There's a mass of people here. Sobeys, one of the big food chains out here in the Maritimes, Pat. They got a whole mass of people here cheering him on today, but oh no, look at this. Jeff is not going to let him get away easy.
They're coming up on Ronnie Schell in that white number 14 car as they head down Cogswell Street. There's your race leader, though, Richard Spenard, as he continues to run out in front. Norman Boyer just hanging on, but Boyer in the last few laps not able to cut into that lead of Richard Spenard, who winds his way through this little chicane and then back down Cogswell Street. Spenard has led here for quite a number of laps, and there you can see the difference between Spenard and Boyer. And if Normand is going to give it one last shot at trying to win this event in Halifax, he's going to have to do it very quickly.
And just split seconds behind Normand Boyer sits Kenny Wilden, the man who has really dominated this year. I wouldn't write Kenny off yet. Oh, look at this. We write this one off, though, Pat.
Shane Grossman has parked it. There's the yellow caution flag being waved. The leader, Richard Spenard, coming through turn 6 and back onto the start-finish straightaway. And Normand Boyer has done a great job here of reeling in Spenard. There's the LL, the last lap board, being displayed at the flagger stand. Spenard through turn 1 for the final time. Boyer continues to put the pressure on as he tries to make a pass here on this last lap. But it'll be very difficult to get around the veteran Richard Spenard, who has led for much of this event. Spenard on the brakes as he turns the car to the right, then left, then right again, clearing the chicane for the final time as they begin the run back down Cogswell Street. Richard Spenard still leading Normand Boyer.
Boy, what a poetic twist on this one. Richard Spenard winning the final event of the year. Can he hold Boyer off? Remember, here's the man who won our first ever event at Motorsport back in '86. He wants to wrap it up neatly today, Pat.
That yellow caution flag is still out. The Grossman car still parked at the side of the racetrack, but well off the racing line. Out of the final turn, the checkered flag flies here in Halifax, and Richard Spenard has taken his Motormaster Camaro to the win.
24th victory for the Motormaster man. He's won more than anyone else. Normand Boyer with a great show in Halifax. And of course, finishing up the top 10, the likes of Peter Cohen, John Cadman Jr. not getting the runs in today they wanted.
It's all thumbs up and smiles from the Motormaster crew as their driver, Richard Spenard, has won it all.
Join us next week when he beats West again for the $150,000 shootout from Motorsports.
It's been a long season. If I would have finished that season without a win, I would have been extremely disappointed. It hasn't been a good season for us, but we were always strong, you know. Obviously, someone was shining this year, and we weren't able to beat him except for today. So I'm very pleased to win here today in Halifax. I did it last year. We did a good race last year, such as today. But more than that, you know, I won the first race in '86, and I won the last race ever of the Players Limited GM Motorsports Series. So I'm kind of proud of this.
And here's a very happy Normand Boyer, who ran very well, finished second today.
We had a problem with our brakes pretty well the whole race. I held back in the middle part just because I knew Rob was starting to catch up to me. So I just figured that I better save the tires and save my brakes as much as I could. And when he got near me, then I'd start using them. And it paid off. The traffic certainly helped. It was a lucky thing. I lost the brakes were gone as soon as I finished the finish line.
And congratulations to Shane Grossman. He picked up the GM Parts Performance Award and is the 1992 Eastern Rookie of the Year.
While the champagne about to be uncorked here at the Moosehead Grand Prix, there is Richard Spenard, finally this year at the top of the podium. Kenny Wilden and, of course, Norman Boyer.
The Players Limited GM Motorsports Series on TSN. Brought to you by GM Motorsports and Players Limited.